3 years had passed since the Battle of Kepler 422b, and Loyalhaven, as the colonists had named their world in honor of the Neodogs who died for it, thrived beyond anyone's expectations. 53 million humans now called the planet home, their cities gleaming under the alien stars that Copper's pack had learned to navigate by. The transformation was remarkable. Where once there had been only forward operating base Echo 7 and a handful of research outposts, now sprawling metropolises stretched across 3 continents. Maglev trains connected mining operations to manufacturing centers. Orbital elevators carried goods to the fleet of ships that now called the system home. But for all the success, shadows remained. Lieutenant Copper, now Colonel Copper by special commendation, stood at the observation deck of Guardian Station, the military headquarters built around the original base. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the lights of Loyalhaven City stretching to the horizon, beautiful, peaceful, prosperous, and still haunted by what humanity had tried to do to his kind. "Another incident report, sir," Sergeant Fang said, approaching with a data pad. He was Major Fang now, his second in command and the finest soldier he'd ever served alongside. 3 ferals attacked a survey team near the western continent. No casualties this time, but the civilians are getting more nervous. Copper took the report, scanning the familiar details. The feral packs had learned to avoid the cities and major settlements, but they still roamed the wilderness, still occasionally encountered humans, still reminded everyone of what Neodogs could become if stripped of their humanity. How many incidents this month? 17, down from 23 last month, but Fang's ears flattened slightly. The Colonial Council is talking about authorizing hunting parties again. It was an old conversation, one that had grown more frequent as the colony expanded. The feral Neodogs were dangerous, no one disputed that. But to Copper and his surviving soldiers, they weren't monsters to be hunted. They were brothers and sisters whose minds had been stolen by human treachery. The colonists of Loyalhaven, to their credit, largely understood this distinction. They'd named their world after the Neodogs, who'd sacrificed everything for it. They'd erected monuments to the fallen. They dealt pragmatically with the feral threat while recognizing its true source. It was the distant politicians and corporate interests who still pushed the narrative that all Neodogs were inherently dangerous, that the ferals proved enhanced soldiers were too unstable for military service. "Any word from our friends in the city?" "Damascus should be here within the hour," Fong replied. "He says he has news about the investigation." Major Damascus, formerly the human operations officer who'd questioned Protocol 7 during that fateful briefing, had been one of the officers most horrified by the abandonment order. He'd spent the last 3 years working within the colonial administration while secretly investigating the origins of the chemical weapon that had devastated the Neodog forces. He wasn't alone. Nearly a dozen human officers who'd served alongside the 47th Frontier Battalion had found ways to remain on Loyalhaven, using their positions to help protect and support the surviving Neodogs. They called themselves the Pack Brothers, humans who'd earned the trust and loyalty of their enhanced colleagues. The door chimed, and Damascus entered with his characteristic methodical stride. His face was grim, but there was something else in his expression, a predatory satisfaction that Copper recognized from their combat days together. "We found them," Damascus said without preamble. Copper's enhanced hearing picked up the subtle changes in heart rate and breathing that indicated extreme excitement, barely held in check. "All of them?" "Every last one. The paper trail was buried deep, but we finally cracked it. General Morrison authorized the chemical deployment. Secretary Hayes provided the funding through black budget allocations, and Senator Walsh," Damascus' smile was cold, "Walsh owned stock in 3 different military contractors who developed the compound." Major Doug looked up from her technical station, where she'd been monitoring planetary communications. "What about the pharmaceutical companies?" Best Biosolutions and CNEX Chemical both provided components. Their executives are on the list too. Damascus placed a data crystal on Copper's desk. 23 individuals total, all confirmed involvement in what they internally called Project Cleanup. The name made Copper's hackles rise. Even now, 3 years later, the casual dehumanization of his soldiers still ignited a cold fury in his chest. "Where are they now?" Captain Sweetie asked from his position by the tactical display. "Scattered across 7 different worlds. Morrison retired to a luxury compound on Arcadia Prime. Hayes is serving as colonial administrator on New Munich. Walsh is running for re-election from his estate on Terra Nova. Heavily guarded, I assume? All of them. Private security, government protection details. They're untouchable through legal channels." Damascus paused. "Which is why we're not going through legal channels." Captain Luna, ever the strategist, studied the data crystal's contents on her personal display. "You're talking about a covert operation across multiple star systems. The logistics alone are manageable," Damascus interrupted, "if we're willing to accept certain risks." "What kind of risks?" Copper asked. Damascus activated the holographic projector, showing a complex web of connections between the 23 targets. "We've been planning this for 8 months. Every target, every security arrangement, every weakness. But the key to the whole operation isn't stealth or firepower." He gestured to the window, where the lights of Loyal Haven sparkled in the distance. "It's them. The Ferals." The room fell silent except for the hum of electronics. Copper felt his enhanced senses cataloging the emotional state of everyone present. Anticipation, fear, grim satisfaction. "Explain," he said quietly. "We capture small groups of ferals, carefully, humanely, and transport them to each target world. Then we arrange for our 23 friends to encounter their handiwork personally." Captain Tracker, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. "The ferals would need to be contained during transport and guided to specific targets." "Doug's been working on that," Damascus said. "Pheromone markers, delayed release containers, the whole package. The ferals follow the scent trail to the target location, encounter whoever's responsible for their condition, and—" "Justice is served," Copper finished. Major Doug activated her own display, showing technical schematics. "The containment units are based on emergency life pods. The ferals would be sedated during transport, then awakened in proximity to the target. Pheromone markers would guide them to specific locations." "And afterward?" Fang asked. "The ferals would be free to follow their instincts. Most likely they'd disappear into whatever wilderness areas exist on each world, or they'd be hunted down and killed," Captain Sweetie pointed out grimly. "Maybe," Damascus acknowledged. "But our friends created the problem. Let them deal with the consequences personally." Copper studied the tactical data, his enhanced mind processing logistics and probabilities. It was audacious, dangerous, and completely unsanctioned. If they were caught, it would mean court-martial for the human officers and execution for the Neodogs. It was also exactly the kind of operation that would honor their fallen brothers and sisters. "How many pharaohs would we need?" 3 to 5 per target, Doug replied. "Enough to ensure mission success. Not so many that containment becomes impossible." "Capture methods?" "Modified stun nets, enhanced with pheromone suppressants. Fast deployment, minimal trauma." "Timeline?" Damascus checked his chronometer. "Transport vessels are already in position. We could begin operations within 72 hours if you give the authorization." Copper looked around at his officers, his pack. These soldiers had survived abandonment, betrayal, and chemical warfare. They'd protected Loyal Haven through 3 years of colonial expansion, earning the respect and gratitude of 50 million human settlers, but they'd never forgotten what had been done to their brothers and sisters. "There's no coming back from this," he said quietly. "Once we begin, we're committed. The Colonial Administration, Fleet Command, Earth Central, they'll all consider us rogue operators." "Sir," Fang said firmly, "they considered us expendable 3 years ago." "Nothing's really changed except their public relations strategy. And our fallen deserve justice," Luna added. "Not the justice of bureaucrats and politicians, but real justice. Captain Tracker nodded. The ferals deserve to face those who made them what they are. Copper felt the weight of command, the responsibility for his soldiers' lives and futures, but he also felt something else, the fierce loyalty that had kept them alive through impossible odds, the bond that connected every member of the pack. "Very well," he said. "Authorization granted. Begin Operation Homecoming." The first capture operation took place in the Shadowlands, a region of deep canyons and twisted forest where two separate feral packs had established territory. Copper's team moved through the darkness with enhanced stealth, their modified equipment designed specifically for this unprecedented mission. "Pack Alpha located," Tracker whispered through the comm system. 6 individuals, standard hunting formation. Copper observed through his rifle scope. The ferals moved like liquid death through the underbrush, still magnificent predators despite their lost humanity. He recognized one of them, Sergeant Boulder from Delta Battalion, a demolitions expert who taught half the pack how to handle explosives safely. Now Boulder stalked through alien forests like the apex predator he'd become, all trace of his former intelligence buried under chemical warfare. "Execute capture," Copper ordered. The stun nets deployed with perfect precision, enhanced pheromone suppressants immediately calming the captured ferals. Within minutes, 6 former soldiers were sedated and loaded into containment units designed for their safety and comfort. "Transport 1, this is ground team. Package secured and ready for delivery." Damascus's voice crackled back through encrypted channels. "Confirmed. Ground team. Proceeding to target Arcadia." 3 days later, on the garden world of Arcadia Prime, General Morrison was enjoying his morning coffee on the terrace of his luxury estate. The retired officer had spent 3 comfortable years forgetting about the unpleasant decisions required during wartime expansion. The security detail was professional but relaxed. Arcadia Prime was peaceful, civilized, safe, the kind of world where military heroes could enjoy the rewards of their service without worrying about consequences. The containment pods had been placed during the night in Morrison's private nature preserve, 10,000 acres of imported earth forest that surrounded his estate. When the timer mechanisms activated, 6 enhanced predators awakened to find themselves in unfamiliar territory. The pheromone trail led directly toward the main house. Morrison was reviewing his investment portfolio when his security chief burst onto the terrace. "Sir, we have a situation. Multiple hostile contacts approaching from the preserve. Some kind of animals, but they're moving with purpose." "Animals?" Morrison laughed. "What kind of animals could threaten a military installation?" His answer came in the form of Boulder, who cleared the 10-foot security wall in a single enhanced leap and landed on the terrace with predatory grace. 5 more ferals followed, their eyes showing no recognition, no mercy, only the hunting instincts that had made them perfect soldiers. "My God," Morrison whispered, recognizing what he was seeing. "Neodogs! But how did they—" Boulder's enhanced nose detected the scent of fear, the rapid heartbeat of prey, but something else too. A chemical signature buried deep in Morrison's cellular structure, the same signature that marked him as the source of the compound that had destroyed Boulder's mind. The feral's lips pulled back from enhanced fangs, as primitive justice finally found its target. Similar scenes played out across 7 star systems over the next 3 weeks. Secretary Hayes's compound on New Munich, Senator Walsh's estate on Terra Nova, the executive retreats of Best Biosolutions and CNEX Chemical, but the operation extended far beyond the obvious military and corporate targets. On the orbital habitats circling Earth, Congressman Bradley discovered that his private estate's security meant nothing against creatures who could scale walls and leap impossible distances. Bradley had quietly pushed legislation to reduce Neodog military budgets while publicly supporting more costful human alternatives. The ferals who visited him seemed to understand, on some primal level, that this was the man who had tried to make them obsolete. In the industrial world of Titan Station, Bill Frank, CEO of Prometheus Arms Manufacturing, learned why his company's lobbying to replace expensive and unpredictable Neodog units with cheaper human conscripts had been a fatal mistake. Frank had testified before Parliament that Neodogs were an unnecessary expense when properly equipped human soldiers could achieve the same results. The enhanced predators that cornered him in his corporate retreat showed him exactly how wrong that assessment had been. The justice extended to those who had cloaked their cruelty in false righteousness. Dr. Sarah Harris, leader of the Genetic Liberation Front, had publicly advocated for freeing our enhanced brothers from the burden of artificial intelligence. Her isolated research facility on Kepler 618c became the site of her final experiment, when 6 ferals demonstrated what liberation actually looked like. Harris had written extensively about how neodogs would be happier as simple animals without the trauma of enhanced cognition. She discovered the flaw in her theory firsthand. Even the war profiteers didn't escape. Admiral retired Blackwood, who owned controlling shares in 3 different military contractors, had pushed for Neodog replacement programs that would have generated billions in new equipment contracts. His fortified mansion on Europa discovered that enhanced predators cared nothing for financial incentives or political connections. Blackwood's final moments were spent understanding exactly what he had tried to eliminate for profit. Corporate executive Rachel Triplett of CNEX Chemical learned that developing compounds to manage enhanced soldier loyalty came with unexpected occupational hazards. The ferals who found her in her penthouse office seemed to recognize something familiar in her scent. The chemical signature of their own destroyed minds. Triplett had personally overseen the chemical's development, calling it a humane solution to the neodog problem. The creatures she had helped create showed her their own definition of humanity. Senator Patricia Dickens, who had secretly funneled defense appropriations away from neodog units while publicly praising their service, found that her estate on New Geneva offered no protection from those she had betrayed. Dickens had diverted funding from neodog medical research to human military programs, directly contributing to the conditions that made Project Cleanup possible. Dr. Martin Cross, the pharmaceutical researcher who had synthesized the neural degradation compound, discovered that his laboratory fortress on Phobos Station meant nothing to creatures who felt no fear. Cross had called his creation an elegant solution to enhance soldier independence, proud of his ability to strip away everything that made neodogs more than animals. Each target received personal visits from the creatures their decisions had created. Each death was broadcast through carefully managed news channels, the pattern becoming clear to anyone who bothered to investigate. Every victim had been connected to the development and deployment of Project Cleanup. Every attack had involved the same type of creature, enhanced soldiers stripped of their humanity by the very people they killed. Target elimination complete, Damascus reported during a secure conference call. Al-23 confirmed neutralized. Any complications? Copper asked. Minor security investigations, but nothing connecting back to us. The ferals scattered into local wilderness areas as expected. Most will probably survive long enough to establish territory. And public reaction? Mixed. Some concern about dangerous alien predators, but also questions about why these particular individuals were targeted. A few investigative journalists are starting to ask uncomfortable questions about Project Cleanup. Captain Doug looked up from her intelligence monitors. "Sir, we're receiving priority communications from Colonial Command. Admiral White requests immediate conference." Copper nodded. They'd known this moment would come eventually. The holographic image of Admiral White materialized in the conference room, his expression carefully neutral. Behind him, Copper could see other high-ranking officers and what appeared to be civilian investigators. "Colonel Copper," the Admiral began formally, "I'm sure you're aware of recent events across multiple colonial systems." "I've seen the news reports, sir. Tragic accidents involving dangerous wildlife." "Yes." Tragic accidents. The Admiral paused meaningfully. Accidents that seemed to have targeted individuals with specific connections to historical military operations. I wouldn't know about that, sir. Of course not. Another pause. Colonel, I want you to know that certain irregularities in past operations have come to light. The deployment of chemical agents against Neodog personnel has been officially declassified and condemned. Copper felt his pack tense around him. This was either genuine accountability or an elaborate trap. Furthermore, the Admiral continued, Fleet Command has authorized a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the Kepler 442b deployment. Those responsible will face military tribunal. I appreciate that, sir, but the individuals responsible for Project Cleanup are already dead. Yes, the Admiral said quietly. They are. And while Fleet Command cannot officially condone unauthorized operations across multiple star systems, we also cannot ignore the fact that justice appears to have been served. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the holographic projector. Your orders, sir? Copper asked. Continue your current assignment as Planetary Defense Coordinator. Maintain security for Loyal Haven's civilian population. And Colonel, sir, your PAC service record speaks for itself. Whatever happened to the perpetrators of Project Cleanup, it had nothing to do with the fine soldiers under my command. The transmission ended, leaving Copper's officers staring at each other in amazement. Did he just, Fang began, give us official cover for an unsanctioned revenge operation? Sweetie finished. I think he did. Damascus laughed, a sound of pure relief. Fleet Command isn't stupid. They know what really happened. But they also know that trying to prosecute you would mean admitting the whole Project Cleanup conspiracy publicly. So we're clear? Luna asked. We're clear, Copper confirmed. The pack is safe, the mission is complete, and Loyal Haven remains under our protection. 6 months later, Colonel Copper stood once again at the observation deck of Guardian Station. Loyal Haven had grown even larger, its population approaching 60 million. The Colonial Council had officially recognized the 47th Frontier Battalion as permanent guardians of the world, with full military honors and unlimited support authorization. But more importantly, the feral attacks had virtually stopped. The remaining Pharaoh pack seemed to understand somehow that their tormentors were gone, their purpose fulfilled. They'd retreated deeper into the wilderness, becoming part of Loyal Haven's ecosystem rather than a threat to its colonists. Sir, Major Fang approached with the daily reports. We received a message from Major Damascus. He's been promoted to Colonial Military Liaison. Good for him. He's earned it. There's also this. She handed him a small package marked with official Fleet Command seals. Inside, Copper found a collection of military decorations, medals of honor for him and every surviving member of his pack. But more meaningfully, there was also a handwritten note. To the soldiers of the 47th Frontier Battalion, your service, sacrifice, and loyalty will never be forgotten. Thank you for reminding us what honor truly means. Admiral White. But perhaps most satisfying were the final reports Damascus had compiled about their targets. The investigation into the deaths had revealed the full scope of Project Cleanup to the public. Congressman Bradley's anti-Neodog legislation had been posthumously repealed. Bill Frank's defense contracts had been canceled and redistributed to companies with ethical oversight. Dr. Harris's research had been exposed as pseudoscientific propaganda, discrediting the entire liberation movement. The war profiteers, like Admiral Blackwood, had their assets frozen and redistributed to Neodog veteran support programs. The pharmaceutical companies that had developed the neural degradation compounds faced massive sanctions and criminal investigations. Even the political networks that had enabled the conspiracy were being systematically dismantled. Most importantly, the public now knew the truth. The ferals weren't proof that Neodogs were inherently dangerous. They were evidence of the lengths to which corrupt officials would go to eliminate soldiers who were too effective, too loyal, and too honest for their comfort. "Well," Copper said quietly, "I suppose that's as close to complete justice as we're likely to get." "It's more than enough," Fong replied. "Our brothers and sisters have been avenged. The truth is known. Loyal Haven is safe, and we're still here to protect it." Through the reinforced windows, the lights of Loyal Haven stretched toward the horizon. 59 million humans living safely under the protection of soldiers they'd once tried to destroy. The colonists had chosen their world's name wisely. It was a haven, built on loyalty, defended by loyalty, and named for those whose loyalty had transcended even betrayal and death. The last pack was still standing, and they always would be. Many thanks to my channel members and Pathfinders. You all make these videos possible. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.